You're ready to live your dreams. But the thing is, in order for your dream to become a reality, you have to actually take a step with your mind, a step that your mind doesn't like, a step that your mind may consciously or unconsciously resist you on. In fact, this is the reason why so many people don't actualize their dreams in reality. And so, if you found this video, you are about to reveal to yourself the ingredients to take the step in a meaningful direction towards not just living your dream, but actually being the version of you that already has it. I'm Danielle Lynn, and I meet travelers such as yourself at moments in time like this, today on YouTube, apparently. And like mentioned, if you choose to watch this video all the way through, you will remind yourself of exactly what step to take right now for the dream that is alive inside you at this moment. How about that for a powerful premise? So if you're going to take this adventure with me, you, and all of us here, one of the first steps to recognize and understand is your mind's role in both creating and potentially suppressing the living of your dream. Our minds are very, very powerful tools. They can conjure up images, imagination. They can help us with logical steps, with reasoning, rationalizations. They can also keep us in thought loops. They can also perpetuate belief structures, whether we would prefer that or not consciously. But your mind isn't trying to be a jerk, not consciously anyway. Your mind is simply doing the function that it believes that is best serving you at any given moment. And it does this through a collection of behaviors, of tendencies, of patterns that maybe you've consciously or unconsciously cultivated over the years. Now, when it comes to your dreams, your mind has an interesting role with it. You see, the mind can help us visualize something. It's actually very powerful, and visualization can be an important step in actualization. The challenge is the mind can fall in love with the visualization of the dream. And this is where many people actually find themselves looping. Because you see, the mind gets off on some level on the recurring playing out of the idea of the dream or the story in the head again and again. It can sometimes even temporarily give us a sense of purpose or direction in life. After all, if you have something to dream for, sometimes that can instigate courage or steadfastness in you for any dreary steps you may be facing now. But here's the shadow side of that. Sometimes the mind or the self gets attached to the dream or the story, so much so that it wants to keep the story a dream. After all, the moment that you take the step in the direction of the dream or the story, it goes from being this perfect little thing that you can hold in the image of your mind to an actual thing you must interface with, to potentially having roadblocks, to potentially falling apart, to maybe not quite turning out the way that you wanted. It's like the difference between having a crush with someone and then meeting the actualization of what it's like to be in a relationship with someone. These can be two very different things. And it's not to say that you can't have a transition from a crush to a relationship, but the crush itself is more about the feeling that you get from thinking about and imagining the person, whereas a relationship involves dissolving the fantasy of the crush in order to actualize the experience of giving, of taking, of maybe the bumps in the road that you didn't know or didn't expect might come from actually connecting with this person that has their own wants, feelings, and needs beyond your particular desire. And in the same way, when we engage with our dreams, we're actually inviting ourselves to co-create with life. And when we co-create with life, well, the dream may not go the way we anticipate. And on some way or another, we know this. On some level or another, we know this. And so sometimes we're almost afraid to bring the dream forward because of what that might mean about bringing it into the light of day. Does it actually hold substance? Can we stick to it? Does it get knocked down? Is there enough support, time, energy? And so part of the reason the mind will sometimes construct these ideas of, well, not yet, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough energy, whatever it is, it's not right yet, is because on some level it's trying to protect both your dream and your energy. It's trying to protect us. But here's the thing. In that protection, it can act as an overactive helicopter kind of parent or figure that cuts off even the possibility of experiencing the dream. And so then you sacrifice not just the risk, but then you sacrifice ever actually living the outcome for the fear of ever stepping out the door. And so when it's time to actually embody the step of your dream, we must, on some level, be courageous enough to be willing to collapse the fantasy of what we thought it would be, so that we can take the bold steps to experience what it actually is. And whenever this message is arriving in your reality, it's a direct invitation to connect to the core of your being. It's around where the heart is, but it's deeper than that. And to really give yourself permission to not only see what that dream is, but to give yourself permission to breathe it into life, to ask yourself, is this a step that I am choosing, that I am willing to take, to be curious enough to bring forward this thing that once brought me a little bit of comfort as a fantasy? Am I willing to sacrifice the story of that fantasy so I can take a step into the reality of the actualization, to meet the potential challenges, to meet the potential discomfort? It's really interesting, because once again, I'm literally describing the process of transmuting something that brought you comfort and safety and maybe a sense of hope, and then cracking that egg open so you can actually make your omelet. With this comes a few things to understand. One is that when you make the choice to explore this step, you're in an essence going to also invite yourself to examine any stories you have about why you can or cannot do it. Examine any reasons you give yourself as to why I don't have enough time or energy, because these can be the tricksters, the trickster energies. And I say that with love. But this can be the aspects of self that think they're being helpful, but it's actually constraining. And you get to explore within yourself how true that is, or is that simply a story that you have been using to keep yourself safe? And are you willing to feel the fear, the discomfort, the tension of unknowing, to take even one concrete step today, right now, when this message is complete? Even if it's as simple as writing out 3 different things that you could do, and then underlying the one that you're going to choose to do. Any story you tell yourself about, I don't have enough this or that yet, a story. Let me give you an example. I had a friend that was working with me in reality creation. She wanted to live in a lake house. And she was saying, well, I don't have the money to do a lake house. And I said, well, why do you think you need the money to do a lake house? And she looked at me like I'm crazy. Of course I need money to do a lake house. And I said, well, let's play with reality, because maybe that isn't so. Certainly you could have money to have a lake house. That is one of the obvious functional paths. But can you tell me for sure that's the only path? She said, well, maybe not. And I said, okay, maybe not. Let's see. And so we got to the root of what she really wanted, which was ultimately just to be able to live in a beautiful place by the lake, where she had enough time for herself, enough time to enjoy the space, to connect with nature. And we focused on the inner integration work, the reality creation approaches that I often facilitate. And what she found, I think it was within a month, She found that a relative reached out to her to invite her to steward their lake house. They had a lake house and they wanted someone who would be there to look after the grounds, and then she could stay there. I believe she was even being compensated for it. And so then she moved herself and her pet there, and then was able to actually, without having to have more money, have the place she wanted in less time that she thought it would took. But it involved her being willing to take the step into shifting from, I need this before I can have my dream, to opening up the possibilities and probabilities, not just conceptually, but also to do the integrative grounding work that allowed it to be perceived as a possible reality for her. This is just one example. There are countless examples that we can apply to this in our reality, but again, this message is coming up simply to bring to your attention that the dreams and the stirrings you have within yourself aren't just there to be a fantasy or to taunt you, or however you look at it. They are the stirrings within your being that are guiding you towards the steps that are available to you right now. And whether or not they take shape in the way you thought they would, because this is the other side of it, we are willing, when we are willing as reality creators to not have it go exactly the way we think it has to go, we are more open to the field of possibility, synchronicity, and opportunity, then we are receptive to possible allies, pathways, and experiences that assist us in lining up with more and more ease to the version of reality where you already have what it is that you're dreaming of. Now, the other caveat I will give to this is whatever it is that we are dreaming about, it's not about trying to escape from the current version of reality. It's about falling so deeply in love with yourself at the current level of reality, or I'll even use another word if we don't want to be poetic about it. It's about totally embracing where you are at in this moment of reality, because you know on some level that in that deep embrace of the moment, you begin to perceive the numerous pathways that are available to you now, not through pushing, not through resisting, not through fighting, but through connecting to your innate presence and your ability to shift. It's kind of like when you stop thrashing, you suddenly can see the way through. And so, my friend, wherever this message finds you, I invite you to be curious with yourself, be curious with your dreams, be curious with the stirrings of your heart. If you feel called to explore more about what I was describing with reality creation, with connecting to yourself, I invite you to check out the Self Alchemy Lab. I invite you to check out the resources in the classroom there. I invite you to check out my newsletter. There are certain portals and experiences that I announce through there that may meet you in perfect timing for what it is you are looking for. And I also simply invite you to appreciate yourself in this moment. You brought yourself here, you connected with some new and or remembered memories, and I'm inspired that you have done so for yourself. It's always a joy to connect with you. Please feel invited to share in the comments your journey so far, your questions. I would invite you to keep your dreams for yourself. I know it sounds really funny. Keep your dreams for yourself, but share anything you would like about how this video, how this message may have met you in the moment. I am imagining you right where you need to be, and I look forward to our next connection.